Russian influence operations are now in full swing in most European countries, and every month they are getting more and more elaborate and increasingly sophisticated. Good evening, my name is Maja Mazurkiewicz, and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. They exploit social media algorithms, the global information ecosystem, and people's vulnerabilities. And they are doing that not just through carefully crafted narratives, but also through the subtle recruitment of vulnerable individuals, people facing financial hardship, loneliness, or resentment. Russian networks are extending their reach deep into European societies. In September, a Russian-funded network attempted to disrupt democratic elections in Moldova, and recruitment tactics are gaining more and more ground in EU countries as well. How is the EU tackling this issue? We'll talk about that and more with our guest.
Josephine Staron, Director of Studies and International Relations at Sinopia. She's a specialist in European issues who earned her PhD at the Sorbonne. Since 2022, she's hosted a weekly podcast about major European issues on Your Radio. Dr. Staron is a member of the editorial board at Inflections, a civilian and military journal. Her research focuses on European political solidarity, including such issues as defense, energy, industry, markets, and foreign policy.
Josephine, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us straight from Paris.
Thanks for your invitation.
Well, today we're going to be talking about vulnerabilities of people very much, and how Russia and other disinformation actors are not only using disinformation and influence operations to change the attitudes of people, but also to recruit them. What's the key in the recruitment that you see?
Yes. Russia has been actively doing what we call a hybrid warfare in Europe, and it's not something new. What is new is the toolbox that Russia has been using lately. Russia has been exploiting every national debates to its own interest, amplifying distrust, polarizing, dividing also every political debate. And what Russia is trying to do right now is also to discredit reliable sources. So it's a very important toolbox that Russia has in the conduct of its hybrid warfare. And for some of those, we are resilient, but for others, we are still not prepared or not prepared enough, especially in Western Europe, I would say.
And that's exactly my question, because in Central Eastern Europe, we are more and more aware there were different incidents like drones entering the Polish airspace that very much brought disinformation and influence operations as well into the public information. What is happening in France and other Western European countries? Are people aware?
Well, people are starting to be more and more aware, but we're coming from way further than Baltic and Nordic states or Eastern and Central Europe states. Why? Because the closer you are to Russian threats, well, the more aware you are of the varieties of the hybrid warfare that Russia is playing. So in Western Europe, since 2022, so since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, we are starting to learn that this hybrid warfare is also conducted against us. And in France, we have seen many events in the past few years and few months involving directly or indirectly Russia or Russian intelligence to destabilize our democracy, to destabilize our public opinion, and as I said, to amplify the distrust that already exists, especially in the French society. There is one interesting survey that has been conducted by the University of Sciences Po that states that 74% of French people, 74, do not trust their national institutions. So that makes us easy prey for manipulation, because once you have targeted a very distrustful society, well, you can polarize it even more by using its weaknesses, by using the voids in our systems. It's much easier than, for instance, when you try to destabilize countries in the Baltic or the Nordic states that are already pretty used to it and prepared, like Estonia. For instance, Estonia, since 2007 and the cyber warfare, they have many tools now to fight, to counter the disinformation from Russia and all the different type of attacks being conducted by Russia. In Finland, they also have a tradition of social trust and schooling against propaganda. So it's something that we in the West are learning, but not fast enough, probably.
But you're having the agency, that is the governmental agency working with the topic. What you are aiming for and what are the main things that you're doing? Is it education or campaigns or research on disinformation?
For now, we are focusing on what's urgent and pressing, which is to fight on like the social media, for instance, and everything that Russia or Russian trolls are trying to do with social medias. We are also working closely with the European Union, European institutions to implement the Digital Services Act, the Media Freedom Act, and also to build up a hybrid rapid response team in case we see an incident. But
incident of the influence operations, right?
Yes, exactly. Whether it's sabotage or disinformation, like a specific lie on something, everything that is a threat to cohesion and trust within our societies is being exploited by Russia and other actors. And now we are building the tools to fight this disinformation, but we have, let's say, a huge debate, a huge challenge, which is how do we not fall into the trap from coming from freedom to censorship? How do we fight disinformation without censoring, without limiting our freedom of speech, which is part of our values? And so this debate has been going on in Western societies a lot lately, and within the European institutions also.
So do you have a response for this already?
Well, I think the authorities are trying to build the response. What I would say is that we cannot build walls, but we can strengthen our immune systems. It's like in medicine. When you have a sick patient, you don't lock him up in a sterile room. You try to build its immune system so that he can fight back by himself. Well, it's the same with disinformation and manipulation. You need to have civic education, law enforcement, public communication that is appropriate to these new threats that are new for Western Europe, but not as new for other parts of Europe. And so we have also to take the examples of Baltic and Nordic states to be more resilient in the West.
Sure, you were talking a lot about the freedom of speech, and I wonder, because most of disinformation is not being spread by humans, it's being spread by the AI bots. And freedom of speech is only for humans. So why we're even having this discussion?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and it's one that tried to be addressed by the Digital Services Act, for instance, in its relationships with tech platforms. The idea is that we need to build a better cooperation between governments, but also between governments and the tech platforms to make sure that we can regulate them and that we can ask them to also implement the concept of freedom of speech and its limitations in a democratic system inside the algorithms with the AI and all of those tools, that it's not reserved anymore for human information, but also for all the algorithms that shape our digital society. And I would like to add that we often have a very broad conception of freedom, like freedom is no limits. Well, it's not true. If you go back to the Enlightenment with philosophers like Immanuel Kant or John Stuart Mill, they all said that freedom has to be tied with responsibility and with reason. And disinformation is not part of the social contract that we have made in democratic states. So regulating, it's not censoring, it's an act of protection of our own freedoms. I think that's really important to understand this nuance.
Thank you so much for joining us. And it seems that the threat is very much on point right now.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at a report on how across Europe and the United States a new form of Russian espionage is emerging, low cost, low profile, and increasingly dangerous.
Instead of sending trained spies, Russia's intelligence services are now recruiting ordinary people, migrants, gig workers, and internet users to carry out sabotage and propaganda operations.
Our security services estimate that 40% of Russian diplomats are actually intelligence officers, planning operations, recruiting agents. And of course there is vicious cyber warfare.
Anonymous channels post vague job offers, promising quick cash for delivery work or easy tasks. Once someone replies, the recruiter moves the conversation to a private chat and asks for proof of identity or experience.
This effect that they need is tension in our societies, also to weaken the trust in the decisions of our governments, and of course to weaken support to Ukraine. And then they see it as the successful way to achieve it. So they run so-called cheaper agents without the multi-year training, the ones that they can recruit online or elsewhere, and they have the very fast and effective result on the ground.
Initial assignments are simple. Take photos of transport hubs, mark military convoys, or paint graffiti. If the person cooperates, the missions escalate.
According to intelligence and investigators, the organizers of these actions are based in Russia and have links to Russian military intelligence and security forces.
In Poland, a Ukrainian national was arrested in Wrocław with incendiary materials after receiving online instructions to burn down a warehouse. Investigators found evidence of cryptocurrency payments and links to Russian GRU handlers.
We've seen pro-Russian affiliates putting online shopping lists and tutorials into how to make cyber attacks effective against Ukraine. Then suddenly you put out their resources for everyone to participate into the warfare. And then you have people, in the morning waking up, what I'm going to do today, watching Netflix or conducting a cyber attack. It's kind of a low-level choice.
Similar operations have surfaced in Latvia and Germany, where middlemen relayed messages between handlers and local recruits, so no one ever met their real controller. Payments were made in cryptocurrency, often small amounts at first to build trust, followed by larger transfers once proof of the task was delivered. Authorities say this financial system is designed to erase money trails and allow handlers to disappear. The same pattern appears beyond Europe. In the United States, the Justice Department has charged employees of Russia's state media network RT with secretly funneling nearly $10 million through a Tennessee company to pay American influencers, part of an effort to amplify Kremlin narratives while concealing the source of the funds. These tactics are part of Russia's broader hybrid warfare strategy, combining digital tools, financial incentives, and deniable intermediaries to recruit civilians for sabotage and disinformation, all while keeping Moscow's role at arm's length.
Who doesn't like to play a game from time to time? Well, games can also be a propaganda tool, one used to promote narratives that justify Russia's aggression and dehumanize their enemies. What's more, the gaming community is a perfect place to recruit spies and collaborators. Let's talk about that with our guest.
Mariusz Żabiński, head of the Science Working Group at the Advisory Council on Resilience to International Disinformation at the Polish Foreign Ministry. He's an expert in research on information confrontations and a security analyst specializing in asymmetric and hybrid threats. Mr. Żabiński integrates and develops new technologies in national security, particularly in the information and cognitive domains. At the Kybernetes Institute for Social Political Technologies, he conducts research and development on a systemic approach to modeling actors, structures of interest, and vectors of influence in information confrontations. He coordinates the work of the Science Working Group to develop recommendations and undertake actions that strengthen Poland's informational strength and resilience.
Mariusz, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Well, today we're talking about different requirements and also what is important, how Russian and other countries and actors are trying to mobilize people. So, well, one of the issues is games. Do you play games?
Sometimes, yes.
And you have a research on exactly this issue in the gaming ecosystem.
Yes.
What is striking you? What is the most important that everyone should know?
The bigger problem with games, online games, is existing some hidden channels of communication, not analyzed by any country, not analyzed by NGOs, where exist very strong possibilities to exchange information between foreign agents and also some internal proxy agents in our countries, also to exchange information by cyber criminals and to provide these actions where the other channels are protected.
And is it because they are under the radar, or is it because the agencies are not really looking into it? However, it's not something new, right? It was ISIS already using gaming ecosystem for communication, and there was quite a lot information around that also in the public sphere.
The problem is a scale of communication. Of course, they have sometimes, the bigger games, some mechanism to report some malicious actions, but this is only automate mechanism protecting by harmful communication. Only other types of communication is not protected.
And those are channels for already existing collaborators, or are there also places to recruit others?
This is for this both type of usage, because there exists some knowledge about using that type of channels in the last decades, or also by regular spies. But now this is a new phenomena where this is a channel for recruitment also of very low working agents without many times this awareness of what they do, because this is a type of creating very close connections, much more closer than in social media, because they have similar experience, these players. This is an open channel to create a deeper connection, call to action, which can provide these players to some illegal actions also.
So they recruit to amplify the message, or is it also something bigger?
This is bigger, because this is for creating some army of very cheap players, but in the real world, to create this task, this type of action where they create also disinformation, starting on this level of internet, but in the next step it's little acts of sabotage of creating graffiti on physical space. And the best of these agents, proxy agents, will be probably in the future spies or collaborators in potential hybrid attacks. They work for Russia, but not only. This is surprising, but we also know, for example, about some activities of, for example, North Korea, cyber operators, working in the Western countries. They started more from this job market where they try to inject some influence, some visibility, some availability of access to the IT companies, but also they searching some young people to create some supporters also in our country.
And you can find that in the games that are used by many? Or there are specific ones?
The most popular games, yes, League of Legends and Counter-Strike, they use many games, yes, but...
also the ones that pretty much if you're a gamer, you for sure play it,
yes,
right? And you can be reached out.
The most common games, yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, let's see how to know if you're being targeted by a Russian recruiter.
Look out for things like unusual flattery or recruitment offers, a shift to sensitive or polarizing topics, and requests to share certain alternative content, translate material, or provide insider information about your network. Russian headhunters usually work under the guise of helping to spread the truth. Conversations gradually move from neutral topics to divisive narratives aligned with Russian propaganda, often testing your views or loyalty. A recruiter might suddenly praise your insight, patriotism, or influence, then invite you to collaborate, offering vague or foreign funding.
Deep down, we all long to be rescued. And that's exactly where headhunters go, into the cracks of our fears and insecurities. So awareness is key. Knowing our own vulnerabilities makes us stronger and safer. So next time you play a game and someone reaches out to you, remember to keep calm and think deeply.